Imagine walking into a workshop in the early 1900s. One machine drills holes, another cuts wood, another prints newspapers, another calibrates numbers. Every machine has a single purpose because every machine is physically built to perform a single task. If you need a different job done, you don't rewrite the machine. You build an entirely new one. That wasn't just common sense. It was how every machine in human history had worked. A loom couldn't become a printing press. A clock couldn't become a piano. A calculator couldn't suddenly become a typewriter. Their purpose was literally built into their gears. Alan Turing proposed something almost impossible. What if the machine never changed, only the instructions? Instead of building thousands of different machines, you build one machine capable of becoming all of them. At first, the idea sounds absurd. How could one machine possibly perform an unlimited number of different tasks? Surely a machine designed to play chess would need to be physically different from one designed to calculate payroll or predict the weather. Yet Turing realized those differences might just be an illusion. Perhaps every task was nothing more than a different sequence of simple operations. And if that were true, then changing the instructions would be enough to transform the machine itself. It was a show-stopping idea. One machine, infinite possibilities. To understand why this mattered, we have to separate two ideas that people had always treated as completely different. There were machines, and there were instructions. Instructions told the machine what to do, but they weren't part of the machine. Turing is responsible for erasing that distinction. He imagined a machine that read its own instructions from the same tape that held the information it was processing. In other words, the program became data. The machine no longer cared whether it was reading numbers, letters, or instructions. Everything became symbols waiting to be interpreted. That tiny conceptual shift changed everything. Imagine opening your laptop tomorrow morning. You launch a spreadsheet, answer an email, edit a photograph, listen to music, and then ask an AI to summarize a research paper. The hardware stays the same, never changing. The same processor, the same memory, and the same storage, all performing every task without a problem. But what changed there? Not the machine, only the instructions. Today, we call those instructions software. It's difficult to appreciate just how revolutionary this was, because we've been surrounded by programmable devices pretty much all of our lives. Every app on your phone feels ordinary. Every software update happens with the tap of a button. We've become accustomed to the idea that hardware stays the same while software evolves. Before Turing, that way of thinking barely existed. For the first time in history, the intelligence of a machine no longer depended on its physical construction. The machine became a general-purpose device whose behavior could change simply by giving it new instructions. In a sense, Turing separated the body from the mind. The hardware became the body, and the software became the mind. That distinction defines nearly every computer we use today. When you install a new application, you aren't changing your computer. You're teaching it a new skill. The same collection of silicon, copper, and electricity suddenly becomes a photo editor, or a musical instrument, or a financial calculator, or a science lab. But it's still the same machine, only the instructions have changed. We all know that, right? Turing's universal machine was never intended to be built. It existed as a mathematical thought experiment, a proof that universal computation was possible. Yet ideas have a remarkable way of escaping the pages of mathematics. Only a few years later, the world found itself at war. Suddenly, governments needed machines capable of solving problems that humans simply couldn't solve fast enough. Cryptography, artillery calculations, radar, logistics, and scientific research, all of it demanded something more flexible. The theoretical work of mathematicians became the blueprint for engineers. Machines like the Colossus in Britain and later the ENIAC, ENIAC, in the United States demonstrated that programmable electronic computers were no longer philosophical possibility. They were becoming physical reality by necessity. It's important to recognize that these machines weren't simply faster calculators. They represented an entirely new category of invention. For the first time, we had built machines whose purpose could change without rebuilding the machine itself. That single breakthrough would reshape all of civilization. When most people hear the word computer, they picture a physical object. What do you picture? Do you picture a laptop, a desktop, a server? Maybe a smartphone or an iPad. But over time, the hardware became less important than the software that was running on it. A modern smartphone contains more computing power than the machines that guided astronauts to the moon by several factors. Yet millions of people use that power to send messages and stream videos, browse social media without ever thinking about the extraordinary idea hidden beneath the glass. Every application represents another version of Turing's vision. Your banking app or GPS, your favorite video game, medical imaging software, shoot, the operating system itself. They are all different expressions of the same universal machine. The computer hasn't changed. As software grew, the value of hardware sadly declined. Companies no longer competed on building better machines alone. They competed by creating better ideas. In many ways, the modern economy runs less on physical objects than on algorithms. It would be comforting to end the story here. Genuinely would. Because humanity had discovered the universal computer. Engineers had built it. Software had transformed it into one of the most important inventions in history. Surely we'd reached the end of the journey. But Alan Turing knew better. He returned to a question that seems almost innocent. If a universal machine can perform any computation, can it always determine whether another program will ever finish running? The answer was no. Just as Gödel had uncovered limits to proof, Turing uncovered limits to computation. There are questions that no universal algorithm can answer. Some computations can only be understood by allowing them to unfold, and some can never be decided at all. The dream of universal computation survived, but the dream of unlimited computation didn't. By now, engineers knew that a universal computer could exist. They knew it could become almost anything simply by changing its instructions. But another problem, as they do, another problem emerged. How do we write those instructions? Computers don't speak English. They don't understand intentions. They don't recognize assumptions. Every instruction must be precise. Every ambiguity must disappear. Teaching machine wasn't just a matter of giving commands. It required inventing entirely new languages. Languages unlike anything humanity had ever created before. The next chapter in our story isn't about how computers were built better. It's about how we learned how to talk to them. It's about creating a whole new language.